Hey there everyone, and welcome to Shuffle Showcase. I haven't been making too many of these lately. I suppose I've just had so much fun playing Stormcaller that it's a bit distracting. But we're going to go ahead and start making a little bit more showcases centered around a little bit of the Stormcaller gameplay, because I know some people are probably excited about him and kind of want to see what's been going on with this interesting new bloodline. Against this composition here, I feel like he's really good. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I kind of feel like he's kind of like the king of ranged, because he just seems like he has so much that he can do in range, and especially against ranges. Especially right here, I mean, this Seeker, he had already used his blitz, and I heard the blitz sound, so I knew that if I used my ultimate on him, he wouldn't have any way of escaping, especially not in that position there. And that sort of thing. Your space can go straight through people, whereas the Seekers can't, and that was a nice double meter right there. We were kind of talking about it in chat a little bit. Your space can go through people. In fact, you're actually encouraged to go through people, whereas Seekers can't. Your R, it works pretty much whether it hits somebody or not. That is, at least in my opinion, because you can use it to reduce damage, but if somebody doesn't hit you, you can still use it to knock people away or hit somebody with it. And for anybody who's trying out Stormcaller, I would have to kind of suggest, don't be afraid to just try a little bit of double tapping your arm, or not necessarily double tapping it as in like not giving it any time, but if you feel like a shot is lined up, just go ahead and hit R. I mean, if your instincts are telling you that it's lined up, just go ahead and trust that and see how far it goes. If it does hit it, then you know that your mind is attuned to that. And if it doesn't hit, just kind of see how close it was, and then kind of gauge how you can adjust your aim from that point on. Because sometimes with things like the lightning shield, the way that it kind of moves as it moves over time or something like that, you're naturally going to get this result where when you are beginning to hit the button, it's still moved at some distance, which means that you're going to miss by that distance. So by just using the ability over and over again, you kind of get the feel for how much it moves while you're pressing the button, and you can kind of get the idea of how much you should lead the target, or not necessarily lead the target, but how much you should predict it. Or something similar to that. It kind of gets to how people memorize the cast times on their abilities. Now, right here, I'm waiting for this Seeker to use his blitz, but he used it to kill me, and I was just like, no! Well, I was kind of upset about that. So I'm going to watch this inhibitor and see how he reacts to this ultimate here. His base, I believe it was off of cooldown. I don't remember. I wasn't looking at that. I was just watching the pretty colors and stuff. Yeah, so it's kind of a little bit like memorizing your cast times and just understanding that there is a slight delay between when you think that you should use it and when it actually does occur, and that naturally means that the aim is going to be changing. It's not like how when you're aiming projectiles, it goes straight to where your mouse is and that never changes or anything. I suppose I've talked enough about that. But also, he's really cool because of his Q ability, the Hailstorm. I find it's a pretty unique ability because it's one of the only ones that actually stops people from walking through that area. Imagine if you actually had an ability that literally could put a pillar on the stage that people could not walk through. It would be like if Grimrog's healing ward was huge. So imagine Hailstorm being kind of like that. You can actually direct people and their traffic and stuff by saying, this Hailstorm, you don't want to walk through it at all. People don't even want to spend a second in it because they know that it has a small dot, and it has a slowing effect, and that eventually they're going to get stunned if they stay in it. So it kind of is a big pillar. It's not necessarily one because people can still walk through it, but they don't want to. That's a really cool thing about Stormcaller. And because of his ability of doing that, he becomes someone who's really reliant on predicting where people are going to be before they are. And for some people, that might actually not be as hard as you think, because people generally tend to want to go to, like, for instance, just there, that Seeker, very obviously he's in trouble, so he's going to go straight towards his allies. So that's a no-brainer right there. And you can also look at melees. If they are nearby to an enemy, they usually walk straight towards that enemy, or similar things to that. If they are in a corner, they'll usually try to walk out of that corner, etc., etc. So just a conclusion for that, Hailstorm is really good for zoning. And just in general, his zoning is really great, especially with his M1s, because hitting one person with an M1 means that anybody else that you hit with an M1 after that is pretty much getting infected with the static debuff, so you can just keep on passing on that M1 bounce all over the place and deal huge amounts of damage, so people just don't want to get hit by M1s at all. So it's a really good zoning tool. So that's us done for game number 1. I have some more Stormcaller gameplay coming up here in just a moment. And welcome back. We're in game number 2. I kind of just now noticed, it seems like whenever we have game number 2, it seems to be on Kojo, the Pygmy Village. I don't know if that's like some kind of subconscious thing for me. But also the last game was on Kojo, so I think well, all of these are on standard queue, so nobody's voting for it, so I have no idea why we play on Kojo so much. Maybe I just really like casting replays from it. No clue. Anyway, so we're going up against this team here. The last one was double range. This one has a melee in it. Now, what I'd like to know about Stormcaller's last game, I talked about he's the king of range, blah, blah, blah. But he seems to be really weak, in my opinion, against melees. Now, that whole time, I was not paying attention to the Herald at all. That was my mistake, honestly. And Herald is definitely somebody that you can, I mean, all healers you should really be paying attention to, but especially against melees. But the point I was trying to make was that Stormcaller is a little bit weak against melees because of how many abilities he has that are so slow acting. Going from the front to the back, we're going to say like his M2, it takes a whole 0.8 seconds for you to silence someone. So that allows them to get at least like 2 or 3 M1s off before you can get rid of them. Your Q ability, it takes, how long is it? 2 seconds plus your cast time, which is 0.4. So, yeah, that's not going to work. 2.4 seconds to stun somebody for just a little while. It's not a very good defense against a melee. And then you have one, which is really reliable, is your E ability. And it still has a 0.4 second cast time on it. So it can be really bad against someone who has a lot of interrupts, like for instance Reaver. He does have quite a few interrupts, for instance his kicks and his parries and all of that sort of stuff, all in his bull. And a 0.4 second cast time against Reaver can be quite detrimental. So I don't have it on this game, but I did start getting it recently. I have been starting to take the Frost Shard medallion, particularly because of this reason. Because Stormcaller is so weak against melees, the Frost Shard can help you a lot because they get into melee range and then you're able to end cap them. And what you do after that is kind of situational. You can, of course, use like one of your longer cast time silences or something similar to that. Your Hailstorm might actually be a really good option for that because the Frost Shard, it puts a damage reduction debuff on them. Kind of, sort of, in that the first damage that they take after the Frost Shard is reduced by, I'm pretty sure it's 50%. So, the cool thing about Hailstorm is that it has a very small dot. It's only 40 damage. So, reducing the first 40 damage by 50% is really not so big in comparison to any of your other abilities. So dropping a Hailstorm on somebody. Also, Frost Shard has a gradual slow on them. So if they have a gradual slow and then they're in a Hailstorm and then you space through them and that puts another gradual slow on them, they pretty much can't move and they're forced to take, I'm pretty sure it's like 28, yes, 280 damage. I'm sorry, I'm so used to the old system that I still say things like 28 when I'm supposed to be saying 280. But anyway, they're pretty much forced to take 280 damage at that point. So I believe that's a really good counter pressure against melees. And because the Frost Shard only has a 0.15 cast time on it, it's much faster than any one of their M1s. So if they space towards you, or if they walk near you, or if they look at you the wrong way, you can pretty much just tap your blue medallion button. For me, it's X. And then drop a Q and then space, and maybe even double tap R if you feel like it. It shouldn't actually be necessary at that point, but if you're getting pressured by a couple of melees, then that might actually be useful. It's much faster than your meteor shard, which a reaver should be able to actually just kick out and then kick back in, and he would be able to dodge the meteor and then incap you, thus setting up for a completely different combo altogether at that point. So just in conclusion, I find that Frost Shard is very useful for a Stormcaller, especially since recently I made a Play It Like You Know It with a guy named Binary. He's been considered the best Meta Warden in the world, and etc. And he has this guide on Gakkonju. I'm going to put the link to this guide in the link below. But he developed this trait and medallion setup that allows you to have really high focus and expertise. I've started using this lately, and the really awesome part of this is that he uses ultimate recovery and a really high amount of expertise. What this does is he has 30 energy after using ultimate. What this means is that if Stormcaller uses his ultimate and he has 30 energy afterwards, he has just enough energy for for Frost Shard, which costs 30 energy. So you're already in close range with somebody when you use your ultimate, and then you get to incap them, or it's kind of more like a stun, I suppose. Anyway, so you get to incap them for however long that Frost Shard lasts for, and then set up for even more damaging combos. And then after, they have a slow applied to them. So that can be really nice for Stormcaller. It allows you to set up more damage. And right here, I'm getting tunneled by a Reaver, and I just want to run away and hide behind my gunner here. And right here, you see when Reaver puts up his parry, he's pretty much ensuring that you can't hit him with your E. And he allows himself to get so close in that he then uses his kick, and that's just no-go whatsoever. Using your Frost Shard is, in my opinion, the only real way to counter a good Reaver, because they'll have almost anything for whatever you have against them. So, that's us done for the replays for today. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.